This project is a cabin in the middle of Norway, in the mountains, with a view to a great mountain chain called Rondane. So obviously this project will be a lot about views, and normally that would call for big windows and perhaps cutting down the trees on the site to maximize the view. But I'm not a big fan of that. The way we live our lives now, we spend so much time looking at something. We spend days at the office or at school looking at a screen, and then we come home and spend even more hours looking at a screen. So why would you drive for hours in a car to a cabin just to sit down and then looking at something again? Isn't that just the same experience as looking at a screen at work? Couldn't you just look at an image of those mountains instead of going there? So I'm more interested in how can we engage the surroundings, the cabin, the site, so that it blends more together with the view that you can experience. You can experience it not just like a screen, but part of your surroundings. More specifically for architecture, I'm interested in depth of space, how you can connect your daily interior in the cabin and the exterior on the site with the mountains far away. This is from the living room. The view is great, but it's even better if it's partly covered with layers of columns, window frames and trees with overlapping sightlines, so that you can only take in the whole view while you move out throughout the cabin. In the dining room there are more panoramic horizontal windows, but also in more directions. The kitchen is farther away from the view, so you'll have correspondingly more columns and things that block the view. But also less important rooms should have glimpses of a view. For instance, here in the bedroom. Even on the outside, on the ground, on the terrace, I would like the cabin to be partly in the view, partly blocking, like the trees. So that's about the views, but there is also a part of the cabin facing the other way, obviously without the same views. The bedrooms have a direct access to the outside, so that you can wake up in the morning, step outside, and be in connection with the weather, the temperature, the climate, and the fact that you're in a cabin in the mountains. Also, from the living room, you can see through the bedrooms into the same terrain in the other direction from the mountain view. This porch is facing south with a lot of daylight throughout the day, and it's a nice place to sit to soak up the sun when it's warm. That could also mean that there should be big windows, but there is a little bit dilemma, because a cabin needs an exterior, and if you have all these big windows in the wall, when you're on the outside on the porch, it's not as nice as if it's a wall without windows. When you're sitting on the porch, you want to sit up against a wall without windows. To compensate for that, there are these roof dormer windows that bring daylight further into the middle of the cabin and also disperse it more throughout. So the overall layout of the cabin is that it's divided in the middle with a one half lower facing the mountain view and one higher level facing the south and the sun and the porch away from the mountain view. And in the middle there are stairs and a corridor and a row of columns, which is the transition between these two levels. And this transitional space between the two is a very nice spot to sit down. It's typically the place where a dog would lie down to have an overview of the room. The entrance is also on the lower level, so you arrive at the cabin with dirty shoes, perhaps it's cold and wet outside, and you step inside, take off your clothes and your shoes, and then you step up into the warmer and more intimate and clean cabin. Outside of the entrance there's also another terrace with outside storage that you can sit in front and also under a roof facing the mountain view, and there is also a simple wood-fired hot tub for the cold season. There is also a loft plant in this cabin with floors covered with tatami mats, and the space on the loft provides the cabin with a different feeling than the floor below. It adds a little bit of verticality, so you get up from the main floor, you sit higher up, but also sitting on the floor, covered by the roof above, and looking more down into the landscape.